throughout my tenure on this hellscape, I've made many a few videos on Mega Evolution, but those were a long time ago. My opinions have developed, my taste is more refined, but most importantly, I'd like to think my banter isn't anywhere near as dead since being, you know, a 16-year-old, because the me 7 years ago, he doesn't know what he's on about, so I'm gonna rank all 48 Mega Evolutions, loosely based on 3 factors. How good is the design? How good is the power boost? And how necessary was the Mega Evolution for the original? Because Mega Evolution should really be all about taking complete sidemen and giving them the opportunity for frontman contention. Garchomp do be a prime devolution, Mega Evolution, more like not as brave as Butch Hartman to make that joke. No, not today. It's not a dead form overall. I mean, it's still a Garchomp, just one that trades off his speed for 2 very inconvenient limbs, looking like a hazard to itself. Teachers taught him not to run with scissors, instructions unclear. Now look at him. Something with this much attack power, but it could be dealt with a well-timed banana skin. That clear trade-off between power and speed is almost never worth it here, because really you'd think with a form called Mega, there shouldn't be that much of a decision involved about wanting it or not. So surely this has to be the most dead Mega form going, when it's the only one you'd actually opt out of. I'm certain that these two got forced onto the Mega guest list purely for the flying around Hoenn gimmick they did in the remakes. Seems like they were rushed onto that guest list last minute and all. Neither of them realized they've shown up wearing the same thing. Must have been embarrassing for the both of them. I would take a singular scuffed deep fried Blaziken form over 2 of these. I only played up to like the 3rd gym in the remakes, but I swear they just hand these out to you. Even the game doesn't respect their value. But at least they're not a downgrade at all. You wouldn't say no to adding more power onto an already juiced up legendary, but it wasn't as if either of them were ever roaming about the Hoenn high streets begging for 1 crumb of power, please. Tyranitar is a prime case of overkill. You're telling me something which canonically cannot be harmed by any sort of attack hasn't even begun to peak. Telling me the guy who terraforms entire landscapes after a few stellars needed to get on the juice. Out of all the mons here, I think the one that arm wrestles mountains and wins was already mega enough on its own. But most of all, it didn't need to look this clapped in the process, because Trinitar is a prime case of overkill aesthetically too. Now this isn't a Garchomp botch job at all, it's definitely stronger here, but it's like adding brass knuckles to the fist of Tebigon. In all fairness to Abomasnow, it's more deserving than a decent chunk of the Pokédex to get a Mega form. Your standard, slower but bulkier beef up, but not like, you know, not in a way that ruins its whole gimmick like Garchomp, since base form Abomasnow wasn't exactly notorious for its 40-yard dash to begin with. But man, out here giving forms to this, Garchomp, Lucario, hey, you're boring me with these Gen 4 choices. Really chose those when your man Spiritomb is right there. I don't even care, douse Carnivine in a bit of that Mega Evolution diesel and set that boy alight. I know he's got something freaky hiding in him. Back in 2014, the general consensus was definitely Ordino got a Mega? That's crazy, but I don't remember asking. Oh, if you know there's Mega potential, you're gonna give the Mega Evolution rub to this. Are you mad? Man, you went with 1 Gen 5 Mega. 1. The sky was the limit here, but they decided to stay put on the roof, eating the loft insulation. Alright, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit rough here. All things considered, it's a pretty inoffensive choice. Could easily wish for 3 Unova Megas, but knowing my luck, the monkey's paw would pull that John Cena, and then we end up with 3 Megas for the Simmer Sideman trio. All Mega Evolution has really done for Camerupt is taken an underwhelming Pokemon and transformed it into another underwhelming Pokemon. And it was definitely necessary. But as much as Camerupt was raging for a good year or 2 session the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, I'm like 97% sure it only exists to make Team Magma's leader not look like a complete sideman. Pretty useless attempt right there. Already strapped him in with a life sentence as a sideman the moment they decided to give him Camerupt in the first place. Way back in 2014, I remember thinking Pinsir was the worst looking one, but I vaguely remember at the time I was close between choosing that or Heracross. And damn, It's so blatant that Heracross is the most clapped looking between those two. What did they do to my guy here? Did Game Freak redesign you? Or did Dr. Kentoba turn you into a robot? Mega Heracross looking like a disguise Plankton would make to low-key order a Krabby Patty, but as dodgy as it looks, it's a decent enough buff. It wasn't exactly wasted on Heracross either. Skill link in 185 attack, and you'll easily be joining him in looking that clapped. Very on brand of you, Slowbro, to suit up with the dumbest looking Mega form, but unlike its frictionless brain, everything else about it pretty bang on average. It's not like Slowbro can't already pull some shifts in his base form, but the Mega isn't terrible itself, probably the most dead on C grade one out of the lot. Now I rate Houndoom highly, one of my inner circle boys, so it's difficult for me to look at the Mega form aesthetically and see it as an improvement. I just like the original that much, that why would you want it to change? But I'll definitely accept the well-deserved Mega Evolution rub for him, but still, even with the power boost, it's definitely on the more average side of things in this stacked 48 pocket pet roster. Burnett is exactly the type that was waiting a long time for Mega Evolution to come along. Very worthy of the power of the ring, but don't be deceived by its wedge 165 attack. Just because it split decisions its way to outmuscle in Trinitar, it's far from the best out there. Don't think you're getting ranked highly just because you look like you jump scare me in Mystic Mansion from Sonic Heroes. It might have that Trinitar strength, but it still revolves around using non-damaging moves a fair bit with the Prankster ability. Banger of an ability still, guaranteed body drop with Destiny Bonds, but no one really wants to limit their singular Mega Evolution per team on a double KO. You'd think Mega Gyarados would have been made so that they could finally have it in the way that it was originally planned as a water dragon type, you know, before realizing that that would have been broken. But this is Gen 6. This is 2013. The future is now, old man. And there's more than enough ways to deal with water dragon types. I mean, they already did kind of work that out, like 2 years after with Kingdra. They gave it the dark type instead. Although this isn't enough at all. 3 new weaknesses be damned. But Gyarados on its own was already a boss fight worthy specimen. Its kinda Hoenn counterpart Milotic would have made for a much better choice here. It's kind of mad that for how overpowered this Mega is, it's this low down. It's not highly ranked based on the criteria that I've tried to loosely stick to, because it really didn't need the Mega, and I'm not exactly fully talked over the design either. But it's difficult to overlook how much of a complete weapon it becomes. That's the only thing Mega Lucario has going for it. Its ability to throw hands or paws or whatever furries use to have a scrap with. If we're talking purely in the middle of that ring, Lucario is definitely up there. But overall, yeah, nah. I can't go in on Lucario for that and let Blaziken slide off just because he's one of my guys. Blaziken is always one of my boys. The Mega only solidified that. Certified Pocketmon banger. But it's no better than Lucario. Neither of these were needed. They kind of balance out here ranking wise, where Blaziken has the better design, but Lucario gets the bigger power boost from going Mega. It's kind of like the camera up change, but in this case, they took a very overpowered chicken and made it a slightly more overpowered chicken. Because we all know the speed boost ability is what made Blaziken as weaponized as it is, and deep fried Blaziken keeps that ability, along with proper Muay Thai form to give you the business that much quicker. Prepare for trouble and make it double. Because Mewtwo, it gets 2 forms for some reason. And I rate both of them on a similar level, but for different reasons. Gotta give ratings to the Y form for reverting into this super Mew form, and for being the superior form overall, I'd say. But I also give ratings to the X form, because it unlocks a completely different skill set, even though your man didn't need 1 form change, let alone a pair of them. I don't know what Giovanni's been pumping into those IV drips, but I'm sure he fed him enough under-the-counter poffins to make sure it was already as powerful as it could possibly be. Best believe that brain has its own heartbeat, but it's not like you're missing out big, like, oh no, my Mewtwo only has 154 special attack. But nah, you're good. Scizor was holding its own just fine before getting the upgrade here. Wasn't exactly a mon sending in death threats to the head office requesting its clamps to be tightened up. But for how kind of unnecessary it is, I do rate that it focuses more on improving its defensive strengths, and the technician ability is no mold breaker, adding some FMJs onto those bullet punches, so it's definitely way above average if you're talking about strength alone. Now, I can let it slide that Gyarados didn't predictably get the Dragon type, because they go and hand it out to wild cards like Ampharos instead. But even with enough special attack to blind every citizen in Olivine City, Mega isn't going to deepen that move pool, and getting the Mold Breaker ability isn't exactly a game-breaking ability. Fairly by the numbers upgrade here, but really the biggest game changer about Ampharos going Mega, hey, damn, it has to be that post-lockdown trim. I'm surprised at myself that this one is as high as it is, but Glalie goes Mega, and suddenly he's looking a bit down bad. Johnny Bravo jaw drop, fully talked, probably breathing like a heat stroke dog. Glalie is locked and loaded, all set for the prowl. Now, it's not a top dollar Mega by any means, but it does what the form change should set out to do. Dead average across the board stats. Gives it a bit of an edge statistically and literally. Teach him headbutt, he's catching a few bodies. I can appreciate the Mega for Absol because it always felt like it had that something missing to it, giving it the speed to actually use its wedge attack for a bit of sweeping, and not ignoring the special attack anymore, letting it utilize its move pool far more. All around sound use of the Mega Evolution mechanic. That's not even mentioning it gets magic bounce, or the fact that it could kill you just by walking up to you. Better not be showing your pet Absol off down the retirement home about to catch more bodies in Glalie's forehead. Mega Steelix gets a big chunky defense boost with some physical attack gains, but then comes along Mega Aggron to Plow King all of Mega Mr. Plow Steelix's Thunder away, a textbook case of gimmick infringement, but comes with the better ability and the pure steel typing. These two balance out for me since I rate Mega Steelix as a design more, but if you're asking who I'd want backing me for when Lucario comes scratching his paws at my front door for all the slander I give him, I'll probably take the Aggron. Arguably the strongest Pokemon so far. The Ozone's favourite pool noodle even gets its own anything goes tier to play around in with the Gigantamax slot. But still, it's not like big base form Ray wasn't already getting asteroids into his macros daily. You're going from a top level legendary as it is to the most overpowered pet in the universe. And do I even need to clarify about the design? Mega Ray is a mega banger. You know, Mega Salamence, yeah, it definitely looks like a complete goon. But when you look at it for long enough, it starts to rub off on you. The Quasha starts to have a bit of charm. Or maybe I'm just going mad. Salamence was deadly enough, but the Mega brings it from pseudo-legendary to borderline actual legendary. Nothing pseudo about those stats across the board. And it's not the only Hoenn pseudo-legend to be blessed by the Mega Ring. Metagross seems to get a similar power-up with juice spread over almost every stat. Now, I love Meta Giza, and the same thing applies for Salamence, but I'm not sure why the levitating iron supercomputer with its 4 RTX brains felt the need to overclock itself even more. But here we are. I'm always gonna rate the design, whether or not it's floating, upright and presenting itself to us, or pinning down its prey for consumption. But they really didn't have to do this. But in all fairness, the designs are both creative and they both seem to get some of the bigger power boosts when compared to some of the other unnecessary mons that got a mega form. I rate both Gardevoir and Gallade fairly highly. If you have your options open for Mega Forms, I wouldn't say it's likely either of these are gonna be your first choice. Gallade isn't even the best psychic fighting type on this list, but even then, I personally lean towards him a bit over Gardevoir here for that drip upgrade alone. Hits you with that pose like a true alpha and or sigma male depending on how you interpret it. I wouldn't know if I'm about to get sliced in half or sent to the Shadow Realm. Out of all the Mega Legendaries, how have I managed to rank Diancie the highest? It's going above Big Ray. It's going above Giovanni's Fridge Alien. None of the Legendaries need a power boost, right? But Diancie is the exception here because I'm pretty sure it was made specifically to Mega Evolve. Because this transformation might as well just be Aegislash's King Shield ability because it's switching into an attack form. So it almost seems mandatory. Otherwise, you've just got yourself a Carbink with main character syndrome. Blastoise being my Kanto pick means I'm especially glad they kept it simple here. Everyone rates the Trapezius cannons easy, light work, nothing but a peanut. Just give him more firepower. Turn him into the kid who takes the water fight a bit too seriously, busting out military grade super soakers, the lad who freezes water balloons overnight before a 6-year-old's birthday party. They kept it simple. There's no need to overkill here, but he might just overkill you with that Magnum Dong. 135 special attack along with the Mega Launcher ability, that sets it up to be a lot more than a Roomba for stealth rocks. A lot of the 6 starter Pokemon who got Mega Forms didn't really need them that much, but I'm not against the changes made to them either. Sceptile is one that arguably deserved an upgrade the most out of the 6. Going part Dragon is a unique move, and Lightning Rod being its ability because of how trees attract lightning, tying in lore and ability in a sense, bait in an electric attack and Sceptile could sweep from there. 145 speed boosted, might as well be fighting an outline of dust shaped as Sceptile. Altaria is a staple example of a mon that should have always been a lot better than it actually was. Bit of a Glalie case, checks off everything you'd want from a Mega really. Solid stat buff, type and ability change that suits what it's capable of, and a design that makes something that seems a bit unfinished fleshed out properly, you know, without getting a bit too trigger happy with it. Aerodactyl going Mega, it seems quite underwhelming at face value, but it sticks to what it already knows. Already decently high attack and speed, but not quite there to hang with the big boys. Juice those 2 up and round it out with the Tough Claws ability, and now you're there. The only thing letting Aerodactyl down a bit for me, this is what your man looked like in prehistoric times. This is not looking like your prime. This was easily fixed. All they really needed to do to pull this off was to make the body color more distinguishable from the original. Then it looked less like Aerodactyl got revived from a dirty brick. Ah yes, the bearer of 5 spoons. Its power grows along with its appetite. Alakazam's brain was already wrinkled enough. Then the Mega comes in and elevates it to Bulldog melting on a sofa level of wrinkled. Plays it safe with the Mega. It does what Aerodactyl does, but for its mind. You all know I rate the design choice here. Makes sense for Alakazam to float with its psychic powers considering it barely has enough muscle fibers to stand upright in the first place. But it could always hold its own anyway. You don't need the Mega. All you really need is a pair of spoons, some special attack, some speed, and baby, you got a stew going. Venusaur wasn't exactly breaking anyone's scouters from its raw power, but it had its uses. It was doing just fine on its own, but even then, this right here is a damn fine buff. Mega Venusaur isn't melting any faces off, but it's a reliable hand in the ring. Its design doesn't exactly scream Mega at anyone. It's not been branded to spell it out for me. I don't see Mega too much here. I see Mewtwo cloned Venusaur, but man, I'll take these nice subtle changes over the overkill. I don't want to see him giving him a tree for every limb it has and adding PT Piranha on his back. Now, Sharpedo. This wasn't just an add-on to make Team Aqua's leader not look like a complete jabroni. Mega Sharpedo isn't there to gaslight you into thinking Archie might actually pose a threat this time around. It actually can be a decent threat, especially if you time things right to get off a few speed boosts in its base form and then decide to Mega Evolve. Swampert is already a filthy little weapon. Then the Mega Stone goes straight to its forearms. Nobody is invading his swamp. Anybody tries, they get their face torn off as long as it's got that gorilla grip. And the Swift Swim ability ensures no one's face is safe from being removed, if the weather permits. I don't even mind old Lizardon getting the spotlight here, because it actually needed it the most along with Sceptile probably. Charizard Y is a banger design looking exactly how you'd imagine a stage 4 Charizard to look. The Drought ability and Solar Beam combo is a nice one for the big orange lizard. But you are too greedy, Mr. Lizardon. Have to go up for seconds, don't you? I prefer the X form for Charizard no longer having the plastic patty itself that they're a proper dragon, when we all know he's only like 10% dragon and 90% orange lizard, and the black with blue flames do be a vibe too. But the big dub here, not getting half sparked out by skimming stones on the floor. Big dub for the big black lizard. Wait, that big black dragon. A power boost that isn't needed in the same way that Alakazam didn't need it. And it too shares a slight case of main character syndrome along with Lucario. But first off, the design rising up from the ground and that white shiny form is looking spicy. But man, I can't ignore that Shadow Tag ability. That powerful, and you can't escape. If you don't have something hand-tailored to deal with this, then I'm afraid that's gaga. This is just plain evil. Illegal. There should be legislation passed to prevent any entity from getting this kind of power. Kangaskhan now has the physical prowess to suit how rare it is to find and catch in the Safari Zone. I know the design choice barely exists, but I can go with the design choice to just have him Gohan and Goku you, and for it to tie into its ability is a nice touch as well. A peak example of a wide move pool that goes straight under the radar because no one cares when you're a normie type who's packing off-season stats. Sableye was looking tragic for that long decade before Hoenn discovered the third dimension. If it were me, I wouldn't leave my dark chubby sumo cave either if I were this helpless. Insane for the time typing with Dark and Ghost, with nothing going for it to even matter. The Mega allows Sableye to finally leave its cave, get some sunlight down him without embarrassing itself. It's offensively lacking, but that defensive typing, stats and crafty move pool, they make it something that's actually worth being involved in Hoenn's Elite Four. I'm gonna have to go back on my word. I'm gonna have to look like a hypocrite for things that I said when I was 16. Manectric might have looked stupid to me 7 years ago, but over the years, it's grown on me. Especially since then, using it as a Volt Switch lead fairly often, I can appreciate the boy now. Even its comically large lightning bolt, I've grown to love. Because Manectric definitely looked like a middle stage evolution. And it always had a decent move pool, but not much tricep meat on him to utilize it as well as it could have. This Mega was highly warranted. Back in the day, I really didn't like Pinsir turning into this complete mutant, getting armed with this fleshy jetpack. But maybe these days, I'm just a lot more of a weapon, because I actually rate how much this fuels my sleep paralysis. It has a far more wham power boost compared to Heracross. I don't even know why I'm comparing the two. There's no comparison here. I think it's because they both look like the type who get angry and their first reaction is to start headbutting things. So with Mega Pinsir, after all these years, I think we can call it a truce. We could shake on it. Medicham is another Hoenn native that had all the potential there and it just wasn't tapped into. That's how you know the form has done exactly what it set out to do. I wouldn't be picking fights with something that's already predicted you are gonna pick a fight with them in the first place and starches you before you even know who they are. Makes Machamp look like a jabroni. Medicham has enough hands to throw to punch you in each individual area of your body at the same time. When you're looking at the Sinnoh Pokedex, this is much more like it. Lopunny learned how to throw limbs. The Megastone giving it 20 years of training Muay Thai in the mountains with an elder Hitmonlee in the span of a 5-second cutscene. And that's the thing with a lot of normal types. It's just like Kangaskhan. They often seem to get a wide move pool that no one cares about because they've got nothing backing them to support these good moves. And not only that, it's arguably the only thing to make proper use out of the Scrappy ability to actually hit ghost types. Arguably, Pidgeot needed this form way more than any of the other 47. Not only is the design a simple and effective glow-up, its stats and ability are too. It went straight from being outclassed by all other flying types to lead in the pack. No Guard alone is enough to separate Pidgeot from all the other birds concussing themselves with every brave bird they pull off. Flying Stab guaranteed to land with Hurricane. Before Megas and the Fairy type came into play, Mawile was looking as tragic as Sableye, even hung out with him in the sweaty dark sumo caves. 105 attack might not seem like a big deal, but with the huge power ability, his attack is just factory set to be doubled. No wonder why his jaws can piece up boulders like a hippo scranning on a watermelon. Scissor's clamps are mere litter pickers compared to these jaws. No one was rating Beedrill. A horde of these things couldn't even get the dub against a 10-year-old and a yellow mouse. You hear about all of those BuzzFeed level theories about Ash being in a coma since the first few episodes, but if even just one of those Beedrills knew how to Mega Evolve, and who knows? All I'm saying is that theory, it'd still be wrong, because they'd get straight to business, skip straight past the coma. Ash would be gone. He'd be going straight from Kanto to Sinnoh, because he'd be paying Arceus a visit real quick if Mega Beedrill spawned. maybe you'd be seeing Giratina. Up to this point, the last time most people thought about Beedrill was when they were 4 years old, using it as an evolution tutorial. Now I know it's far from the strongest Mega out there, but it's almost definitely the most necessary. The design goes in, and it just might have the biggest gap in power that Mega Evolution has caused.